Well, 1 in 5 Australian baby boomers are retiring with mortgage debt. So today we wanted to look at what options those nearing retirement have to try to boost their assets and savings.
And joining us now is author of 7 Steps to Wealth, John Fitzgerald. A very good morning to you, John.
Hey guys, great to be here.
Good to see you, because you're a big believer in property investment, which, as we've seen in recent years, it's gone fantastically well, but right now it's flattened or even dropped off. Is property still a good option for those wanting to build wealth?
Well, I'll tell you, real estate is the best option, and there's a big difference between real estate and property. And when I wrote the 8th edition of 7 Steps, because I wrote the first edition 20 years ago, I had to put a banner on the bottom saying the vital difference between real estate and property, because a lot of people don't understand.
So what steps should people consider when looking into property investment then?
First, number one is land. Land is real estate, and land's the commodity. And if you look at the growth of assets over the last 20, 30 years, the most important asset is the land. So step number one is buy land for growth. Step number two, and then we're chasing growth. Step number 2, 3, and 4 are cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Stay at the bottom end of the market. Step number 3 is maximise your tax. Now, you can be cash flow positive and still get a tax deduction. And that's that secret within property. And step 4 is finance. And you know, we've heard with the Royal Commission, the banks have been real naughty. So don't put your investment property with the same bank that you do your house funding with. Make sure you're separate on that. And then step 5, most important, is aim for affordability. So take those baby steps. Step 6 is the key to all success. Repetition, 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 which is really just making time work for you. And then step 7, that's the top of the mountain, which is be all you can be, the why. And that's where you get to give it all away. That's what you do. When you make all your money, you should give it all away.
To your family, I guess. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Or better if you can.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about property investment here, it's anything outside of the family home, I'm assuming. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. The family home is the most expensive asset because that's all after-tax dollars. But the government actually gives you an incentive to go and buy investment property, and you can get a full tax deduction for it out of your weekly pay. Good time to do it because we have the highest population growth in Australian history, and we have the lowest interest rates in Australian history. So I'm a firm believer, but whatever you do, don't buy apartments. Stick with the land and house. Make sure you've got at least 40% land content. And step 1 of 7 steps, buy land for growth. That's really the key.
Is that because, yeah, okay, you just answered my question then. Hey, so I guess this changes from person to person, but is there like a magic number of when people should retire or consider retirement?
Oh, well, I had a guy who read this book when he was 72 years old, 20 years ago. And he made up, or got to, 6 properties by accumulating. He's now 92. James, hi. Hope you're watching.
Yeah,
you've been a great inspiration to me.
Yeah.
But we should do whatever we possibly can, because the baby boomers are becoming the poverty gang. 700 Australians are retiring every day, and over 600 are going straight on the pension. And the pension is barely above the poverty line. It's like 23,000 a year. So we've got some real problems in that area coming in the next 10, 20 years.
We're talking about property investment here, but we've heard in Canberra lately there's lots of talk about changing negative gearing and capital gains taxes. I mean, how much should that be taken into account by mum and dad investors thinking about going into property?
Well, none of it's going to be retrospective. So both sides of the house have said whatever they're going to do, they're not going to do it retrospectively.
Liberals so does that mean get in and do it quickly? Is that what you're saying?
I always say do it while you can. I mean, you've got the lowest interest rates and the highest population growth. Learn about doing it, pick up and read 7 Steps to Wealth, or just learn about it, stick with the wealth, and have a strategy that suits you. But absolutely, don't waste any time, because your finite earning period between now and when you do retire.
Yeah, we had, and you just mentioned this, the Banking Commission, and we had Effie Zahos on last week talking about this too. Given that the banks are in a lot of trouble at the moment, is the power with the people now too in terms of getting themselves a better loan percentage? If you're at a certain rate, you can get that down by 1/4% or whatever.
I don't know about that. They say that the world's run by lawyers and bankers, so don't think the power's with anyone other than that. All I can say is that the banks are back lending and they're doing interest-only loans. But yeah, they've been naughty, so whatever you do, don't put your house, keep your house and your investment property with separate banks so that there's no cross-collateralisation, and make sure you get a copy of your bank valuation when you buy your investment property. That's been my advice for 20 years.
So, what you're saying is property is the go as investment over shares, or is it always best to have a bit of a mix of both?
Look, I'm a property person, and I can tell you now that really residential land in the capital cities has outperformed every other asset class, even outperformed Warren Buffett. And I was buying house and land in 1986, 87 for $15 a square metre. That land now is worth about $750 a square metre. So it's gone up by 40 or 50 times, whereas the house price has gone up 12 to 15 times. It's the hidden secret in Australia, and it's really what we should be zeroing in at, particularly with our population growth going on today. And it's all going in the main capital cities as well.
Righto, John Fitzgerald, thanks for your time this morning.
Cheers, thanks for having me.